My family was poor, and my parents forced one of us, my sister or me, to drop out of school. My sister Hannah, without hesitation, gave up her studies, giving me the chance to continue. Hannah said her biggest dream in life was to own a car. To repay her, I worked day and night, not daring to rest for a single moment. After graduating, I worked 3 jobs a day to save money. Finally, on her birthday, I bought her a car. She was very happy. But from then on, every month she took 4/5 of my salary for her expenses, lived in my house, and ordered me around like a maid. Whenever I showed dissatisfaction, she would cry and complain, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have dropped out of school. I would surely have a brighter future than you now." This continued until I discovered that she didn't drop out of school for me, but to run away from home with a scoundrel. I cut off her credit card, but she flew into a rage and pushed me off a high place. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the day my parents asked who would drop out of school. Hannah said, "Mom, let me drop out. I'm the older sister, so I should give way to my younger sister. I'm grown up now, it's time to lessen the family's burden." In a daze, I heard Hannah's voice, but wasn't I pushed to my death by her? The sounds grew clearer, the surroundings more familiar. I collected myself and was certain I had been reborn. Heaven must have seen how miserably Hannah had bullied me in my past life, giving me a chance to start over. This life, I would definitely make Hannah pay. In the bedroom, my mother and Hannah were still arguing. I couldn't stand Hannah's hypocritical face. I walked into the room and heard them talking. "Mom, this is what I should do as an older sister. Our family isn't well off, so let Daisy get a proper education. I don't feel wronged at all, Mom. Please don't worry." She was an excellent actress, feigning understanding and claiming it was all for her sister, but in reality, it was just an excuse to run away with her boyfriend. Recalling how miserable my past life had been, I opened the door and stepped in. Hannah seemed surprised by my entrance, her eyes showing a hint of shock. "Daisy, why are you here? Your mother and I are having an important conversation. Please wait outside." I kept a calm expression, showing no emotion. "Mom, I heard everything from outside. My sister wants to give me the opportunity to study, and I agree." My mother looked slightly suspicious. "You agree to study instead of your sister? Does your sister not want to study?" I feigned innocence, knowing well that a degree would be my ticket to a job later. My mother was about to scold me for being insensitive, but Hannah quickly spoke first. "Mom, Daisy and I have both agreed on this matter of schooling. Don't worry anymore, we're both doing this voluntarily." My mother sighed. "Hannah, I know you're doing this for your sister, but I just worry that if you don't live well later, you'll blame me for not letting you continue your education." But Hannah, at that moment, was overjoyed about running off with that blonde-haired man outside, not bothering to listen to my mother's words. She excitedly chirped, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll definitely live a better life in the future." Daisy thought, at this moment, Hannah was pinning all her hopes on that man, hoping he would take her away to live a life of luxury. How could she ever endure the hardship of studying in a classroom? Who went to school was, in fact, a mutually agreed decision. Hannah would definitely regret it later. Since Hannah decided to drop out, the family only had one person to worry about sending to university, significantly reducing the pressure on my parents. A few days before I was to enroll, my mother frantically knocked on my door at midnight. "Daisy, have you seen your sister today? I haven't seen her all day." Ever since Hannah announced she was dropping out, she started to be frequently absent from home. At first, she'd only be gone during the day but would return in the evening. But today, she had vanished entirely, and now it was past midnight. Mom was starting to worry. Recalling my past life, it seemed exactly the same. The day she completed her withdrawal papers, she had spent the night out with her boyfriend at a bar and didn't come home. My mother worried for her, standing by the door all night in the cold wind, waiting. Seeing my mother's anxious face, I spoke up, "Mom, don't worry too much. Hannah is such a good girl, she's probably just out strolling to clear her head because of dropping out. Let's not disturb her." Of course, I couldn't go looking for her. If I did now, I'd only spoil her and her boyfriend's fun. My mother was still a bit suspicious. I half pushed, half coaxed her back to her room, waiting until she fell asleep before leaving. "Hannah, in this life, you can just waste away in bars with your boyfriend forever." Few days later, it was time for enrollment. I packed the tuition and living expenses my parents gave me and set off for school. Before I left, my father still reminded me, "When you get to school, you must study hard. This is an opportunity that only came because your sister dropped out." My father had always favored Hannah. Even as I was about to leave home, he kept mentioning his eldest daughter. Even Hannah dropping out was because she had begged my father repeatedly for me to go to school. But did he ever consider that with Hannah's college entrance exam scores, she wouldn't even get into any school? About to leave home, I didn't argue, just nodded silently. I know, Dad, I'll study hard. In college, not only did I study well, but I also frequently worked part-time to support myself. Although the financial pressure at home was lighter after Hannah dropped out, the living expenses my parents sent were too little and often late, to the point where I couldn't even cover my basic necessities. Tutoring, restaurant work, prize-winning competitions, anything that could earn money, I did it. More than half a semester passed, and thanks to my part-time jobs and the scholarship for financially struggling students I received upon enrollment, I no longer had to worry about food and clothing for the time being. Just as I was starting to see hope in my life, a call came from home. At that moment, I was eating a staff meal at the restaurant where I worked part-time. Seeing my father's name appear on the phone, my heart clenched. After a moment of hesitation, I answered. My father's voice rang out, "Daisy, I remember you got a scholarship when you first enrolled, right? Send that money back. We need it urgently at home." When I applied for the scholarship, I had asked my parents to get a poverty certification from our hometown so they knew I received financial aid. Otherwise, I could have kept this a secret. "Dad, what's wrong at home? Why do you need money so urgently? This is the meager amount I've saved. I can't just hand it over casually." But as soon as I asked, my father immediately got angry. "Why are you asking so many questions? Do you think you're so smart now? How dare you ask your father what he needs money for? If your sister hadn't given you her chance to study, where would you get money to spend?" Sound familiar? In my past life, when I cut off Hannah's card, my father lectured me the same way. If it were my past life, I probably would have quietly sent the money home out of guilt. But now I was at school, thousands of miles from home. Even if my father was unhappy, he couldn't do anything to me. "Dad, you have to tell me what's wrong at home. What if you're being scammed?" Through the phone, I could clearly feel the impending explosion of anger on the other end. Perhaps my mother had snatched the phone. Her voice was gentle. "Daisy, it's like this. Your sister has been having health issues lately, and we can't come up with the money right now. Can you see if you can transfer that amount?" According to my past life's script, Hannah probably lived a promiscuous life with her boyfriend for a long time and contracted a nasty illness. But the irresponsible boyfriend, hearing she was sick, ran off and left her to fend for herself. But to my parents, she claimed she had a small tumor growing inside her. But my family had no money to pay for her medical treatment. My mother remained very kind, but I absolutely couldn't transfer the money home. My part-time earnings were barely enough for me to eat sparingly. If I transferred it, how would I live? I didn't even know when next month's living expenses would arrive. "Mom, it's not that I don't want to transfer the scholarship money, but it's very little. How long has it been since you sent me living expenses? Eating and bathing at school all cost money. I truly have no money left." Hearing me say that, my mother must have understood my difficulties, so she didn't push further and quietly hung up. "Hannah, in this life, don't even dream of getting a single penny from me." In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the year. Under my mother's urging, I took the train home for Tet Lunar New Year. During the New Year's Eve dinner, as the family chatted by the fire, Hannah seized the opportunity to bring out her prepared gifts. "Mom and Dad, these are gifts I bought for you too. It's a new year, so you should have some new things." I looked at the items she brought out, all expensive designer goods. At least with my current financial condition, I couldn't possibly afford them. "Look, Mom, I earned all this money myself to buy them. It was a bit tough, but it's my heartfelt gift. If I had gone to school, maybe earning money would be easier, and then I could buy even better things for you too." These few sentences carried a hint of grievance that deeply saddened my father. With a few more designer items, my father smiled, barely concealing his satisfaction. Hannah's words clearly had an underlying meaning. I understood it instantly. I turned and went into my room, bringing out the gifts I had prepared, not expensive, just a few new clothes I intended to give my parents for Tet. "Mom, Dad, these are clothes I bought for you too. Try them on and see if they fit." My mother happily didn't say much, immediately tried them on and praised them incessantly. My father, however, didn't bother to hide his feelings. Although I worked many part-time jobs, my income was meager, all paid hourly. My class schedule was packed. I truly had no free time. Today's gift was also thanks to saving every penny at school, yet my father was far from pleased. You've studied this much, your sister dropped out for you to go to school, and yet you're not even living as well as her, buying such useless things. These words were like daggers piercing my heart. But this time, I remembered clearly, never again would I offer my heartfelt warmth to my father's cold judgment. Thinking I could peacefully enjoy Tet, who knew that the next morning the door was knocked on early. In a drowsy state, I vaguely saw that the visitor was Julian. In my past life, my sister dropped out of school precisely to run away with him, so why was he here? His hair was still blonde, that hadn't changed. He carried a few gift bags, the kind of inexpensive offerings one usually brings. As soon as he entered, he rushed straight into the living room, knelt before my father. "Uncle, I truly love Hannah. Please give her to me." He spoke, shedding tears. If I hadn't seen how miserably Hannah lived with him in my past life, I might have believed him. Seeing his appearance, blonde hair, tight pants, carrying a few worthless gifts, and outside, a rickety motorbike that had been repaired countless times, my father didn't say a word, immediately chasing him out of the house. That evening, my father exploded in rage, scolding Hannah. "How dare you date that kind of boy behind my back? Look at him. That kind of person isn't worthy of you. Tell me the truth, when did you two start dating?" Hannah had never seen my father so angry before. She cried until she could barely speak. "We only met after the college entrance exams. Dad, please don't make it difficult for him." Hannah was still clinging to her teenage romance, but to my father it was a clear sign that they were planning to run away. "You dropped out of school because of him, didn't you? No wonder you suddenly didn't want to study anymore, so it was because of him." Hannah was still crying at that moment, too distraught to deny my father's words. Her silence was as good as an admission. My father, furious, commanded, "You will immediately break up with that boy. Don't let me see him again. Go back to school and retake the college entrance exam for me." With his limited perspective, he only saw education as the sole path to save his daughter, wanting to confine Hannah within school and sever her ties with that man. Right during Tet, a huge drama finally sent Hannah back to school, putting an end to everything. Our family's annual income was fixed, and the tuition for repeating high school wasn't cheap. After sending my sister back to school, my parents didn't have much money left, meaning there was nothing for me to expect regarding my living expenses. When my father returned home from school, he looked at me and said, "You know, all the money in the house is now going towards your sister's education. As for your living expenses, don't you have a scholarship? Use that for now. If it's not enough, figure it out yourself." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh and retorted, "I'm just a regular college student. What ways could I possibly figure out? The scholarship is only a few hundred." When I asked him like that, my father began to get annoyed, his voice turning sharp. "You're a girl, aren't you? Just get into bed and you'll have money, won't you? What's so difficult about that?" After saying that, he waved his hand and walked out, heading towards the gambling den. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. It was hard to imagine a father saying such words to his wife and daughter. Without living expenses, I started to feel lucky that I hadn't transferred the scholarship money back before Tet. Now I still had a small amount to get by. I took that meager sum back to school, found more part-time jobs, and participated in more competitions to earn money. Not long after, college entrance exam season came again. I remembered how last year at this time, I was still worried if I would even get to go to school. A year had passed in the blink of an eye. As Hannah prepared to apply for colleges, my father called me home again. This time, I was wiser. I came alone and brought nothing to avoid my kindness being taken for granted. I looked at Hannah's scores. They were just barely enough to pass the cutoff for a vocational college. With scores like these, she might only get into expensive private schools where she might not even learn anything useful. Hannah, however, insisted on going to school near home, but the schools in my area were both expensive and poor quality. She seized the opportunity to say, "Daisy, you must have earned a lot of money studying at university this year, right? Give me some money for my tuition. How convenient is that?" My father heard this and chimed in. "That's right, you've been studying for a year now. Why haven't we seen you send any money home?" I gave a faint laugh. "Dad, you and Mom only paid $4,000 for my tuition when I enrolled. Since then, there have been almost no living expenses. I've earned everything myself. After deducting living costs, how much is left?" In the middle of summer, distributing flyers outdoors, I only earned 20 dong an hour. "You want to take even that much money, Mom and Dad?" I said those words not to anger my father, but because it was true that distributing flyers only paid 20 dong an hour. Hearing this, my father said nothing more. As neither of them spoke, I continued, Dad, the policies are great now. If you don't have money, you can apply for student loans. The amount borrowed is increasing, so paying for Hannah's tuition won't be a problem. As soon as she heard the words, student loan, Hannah reacted instinctively. I'm not taking a loan. Borrowing money is so embarrassing. What if people find out our family has no money? The spoiled princess flared up again. I patiently explained, this is so that later you won't be blamed for not going to school because of me. Many people are taking out loans now, and they're interest-free. You can just pay it back gradually after graduation. Now that you want to study and our family can't afford it right now, a loan is a good option. Once you're in college, you'll see no one will look down on you. As soon as I finished, Hannah reacted violently. Daisy, do you think you're so smart? You've only studied 1 year more than me, but you act like you're so knowledgeable. I knew nothing I said would get through to Hannah now. I turned to my father and said, Dad, you heard it. It's not that our family has no way to send her to school, it's that Hannah refuses. Don't say later that she didn't study because of me. My father sighed, somewhat helplessly, while Hannah defiantly said, if I have to borrow money to go to school, I'd rather not go at all. After saying that, she ran out. She still hadn't returned by the next morning, and my father began to worry. She must have gone to find that blonde-haired boy again. I don't even need to think about it. I'll break his legs, just watch me, Dad fumed at Mom. After saying that, he grabbed a broom and stormed out the door. Mom, fearing Dad would do something foolish, pulled me along as she ran after him. The three-wheeled cart stopped in front of an old building in town. My mother and I followed my father upstairs. Dad was very familiar with the way. When he got there, he didn't bother to knock, simply kicked the door open. I stepped in after him. As soon as I entered, I saw Hannah and Julian entangled on the bed. Hannah nestled against Julian like a spoiled little bird. Seeing that scene, my father immediately swung the broom straight onto the bed. Hannah quickly grabbed a jacket, covered herself, and ran to stop my father. At this moment, Julian frantically ran around the room looking for an escape, while my father cursed, What have you done to my daughter? It's been half a year, and you two are still clinging to each other. If I don't beat you to death, I'm not a Han. Hannah, at that moment, only worried about her boyfriend, not thinking of anything else, stammered, Dad, don't hit him anymore. If you beat him to death, the baby in my belly will be gone too. That one sentence made the whole room explode, then quickly fall into silence. My mother pulled my father's arm, while I stood to one side, maintaining my role as an outsider watching the spectacle. It saved me the trouble of intervening and then being criticized. You're pregnant and the baby is his. My father couldn't believe it. He pressed Hannah. She only nodded slightly. So you didn't go to school because of him too? Hannah fell silent at this, neither refuting nor admitting, implicitly confirming everything. My father was the type to resolve everything on the spot. At this moment, he threw the broom to the ground, preparing to hold court. Hannah began to defend Julian. Dad, I didn't get pregnant easily. I truly considered him very carefully. He's very mentally prepared to be a father, which is why the baby came to us. I thought I'd drop out and put all the money towards Daisy's education, so you and Mom would have less hardship. After all, our family only needs one child to go to university. She started her victim act again, pretending to sacrifice herself because the family was poor, clearly trying to drag me into it as an excuse for her wrong choices. Dad, trust me, he's a man with potential. He'll definitely treat me and our child well in the future. Truly, the type of person drunk in love. Hearing Hannah say that, my father became a bit silent. After all, he always doted on his eldest daughter. As long as her words weren't too outrageous, he would agree. Adding to that, her mentioning dropping out for me made him even more sympathetic. Moreover, Hannah was now pregnant, kneeling on the ground, speaking each word to my father. How could he cruelly refuse? His silence was his biggest concession. Hannah glanced, signaling Julian, who then crawled on his knees to my father's feet, saying, Uncle, please rest assured and entrust Hannah to me. I will definitely not let you down. My father's expression was still not good, but he merely threw back one sentence, Tell your parents to come here tomorrow to talk. After saying that, he left, as if he had agreed. Hannah and Julian embraced each other, looking like a fated couple reunited after hardship. However much happiness Hannah had now, she would have that much despair later. The next day, Julian brought his parents to my house, clearly intending for Hannah to stop schooling and stay home to safely give birth to their child. This was exactly what Hannah wanted. She nodded enthusiastically, agreeing incessantly. Their marriage was decided with just a few words between the two families. I once thought my family was poor, so I never dared to ask for anything. It wasn't until Hannah got married that I realized our family wasn't without money, they just didn't want to spend it on me. Hannah's wedding gifts were almost all of my parents' lifelong savings. The dowry list was thick, and I was stunned just looking at it. Initially, I came home to help Hannah with her college applications. Now, there was no need. She was getting married, so what was the point of studying? Knowing my place, I had already contacted a factory in the South to work during the summer break, trying to save a little money for the next semester. Before leaving, I sought out my father to ask for some living expenses for school. Perhaps it was just bad timing, and my father was already irritated. He said, "All the money in the house has become your sister's dowry. There's none left for you. We never gave you money before, and you didn't die, did you?" There was money for Hannah's dowry, but none for my small living expenses for school. We were both his biological daughters, yet we were treated so differently. I shouldn't have expected anything, as my father's favoritism wasn't a new thing. Disappointed, I pulled my suitcase and walked out of the house. My mother called me back and pressed some money into my hand. "Daisy, it's not much, but take it for your journey. You know, most of the money in the house is with your father. This is all I have. Don't think it's too little." Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. My mother wiped my tears, and I, carrying my suitcase, left to earn money. Hannah's wedding was set for October. At that time, I was at school when I received a call from my father. "Daisy, your sister is getting married soon. You should buy her something, shouldn't you? I've already picked out a few gifts. See which one you want to buy. Your sister likes them all." I minimized the call interface and looked at the pictures my father sent, all huge gold bracelets or designer handbags. None of them were cheap. After seeing them, my face darkened. "Dad, these things aren't cheap." "Where would I get the money? I'm just a poor student. How could I afford those?" My father seemed to have his arguments ready. "You're her sister. It wouldn't look good if you didn't give her a wedding gift. I've already chosen, just buy that bag. Your sister will look good wearing it out." I gave a faint laugh. "If you like it, you still need money to buy it, and I can't afford it. Oh dear, everything needs sincerity. Your sister is getting married. She surely wants blessings from her younger sister." Hannah's voice rang out from the other end of the line. It seemed she had been with my father the whole time, listening to the entire conversation. Hannah had said so much. If I still refused, it would be as good as being seen as unreasonable. "If you're getting married, sister, I'll definitely give you a heartfelt gift." Saying that, I opened a shopping app and searched for an identical product by scanning the photo my father sent, an exact replica that cost only a few tens of dong. I didn't hesitate to order it immediately. That, too, counted as my heartfelt gift. A few days later, while I was participating in the finals of a major competition in Hong Kong, I received a call from Hannah. "Daisy, was that intentional? How dare you give me a fake bag? Do you know how many people mocked me when I wore it out today?" I feigned surprise, inwardly overjoyed beyond words. "Sister, I thought you knew it was a fake. I can't believe you actually wore it out." Hannah's voice rose several octaves in anger. "How was I supposed to know it was fake?" "If I knew, I wouldn't have worn it. You clearly did it on purpose." I slowly replied. "Didn't you say sincerity was important, sister? What's the difference between a real bag and a fake one? This is my sincerity." Just as Hannah was about to scream, I decisively hung up. After all, I had more important things to do at that moment. I adjusted my mindset, confidently walked onto the stage, and ultimately won first place in the competition with a prize of hundreds of thousands of dong. All my long-term efforts had finally paid off. After the fake handbag incident, Hannah almost stopped contacting me. My father also called less often to bother me. Only my mother occasionally called to check in. But I didn't feel sad at all. On the contrary, I felt much more relieved to be free from that family. I went home less and less, dedicating all my time and mind to my studies. I participated in many competitions, and the prize money was enough to cover my living expenses. Before graduating, my resume was packed with achievements. I didn't choose to pursue graduate studies, but went straight to work in Beijing. I thought my life had turned a new page from here, but heaven wouldn't let me be. One day after work, I received a call from Hannah. "Daisy, hurry home for a visit. I have something to tell you." I was no longer the Daisy of yesterday. I asked, "If there's something, say it over the phone. I don't have time to come home. I have to work." Hannah seemed to have anticipated my reaction and was prepared. "You really don't have time to come back. Mom is seriously ill. don't you want to visit her? After all, Mom is the only one in the family who treated you well. Yes, only my mother truly loved me in that family. I couldn't abandon her. I booked the earliest possible ticket and rushed back. Since entering university, I had barely returned home, only coming back when something truly serious happened. Now, after working for 2 years, the house was still old and dilapidated. I didn't even need to ask where the money had been spent. As soon as I stepped into the house, I saw it crowded with aunts, uncles, and relatives. But this wasn't a holiday. Just then, Hannah stepped out in front of me. Oh, look who's back. The smartest one in the family has returned. Working in Beijing, you barely come home. You probably don't even deign to look at this poor house, do you? If I had also gone to school back then, perhaps I would be the one wearing such luxurious clothes now. But it's okay. I'm still the older sister after all. Giving way to my younger sister is what I should do. Not everyone has such magnanimity as me. So she called me back just for this hypocritical act. I said nothing, only pulled out the evidence I had prepared in advance. After all, in my past life, I had been bound by this kind of hypocrisy for an entire lifetime. I took out the student loan application form that I had previously prepared for Hannah. The date clearly stated it was 5 years ago. Sister, don't talk nonsense. That year, you clearly still had the chance to go to school. You just needed to take out a loan to continue studying. It was because you found borrowing money embarrassing, felt that going to school wasn't dignified, which is why you didn't go. But embarrassment was just a secondary reason. The biggest reason was that at that time, you were only focused on Julian and were also pregnant. Have you forgotten? Back then, you absolutely refused to go to school. If the loan application could be faked, Hannah's child certainly couldn't be. I remembered seeing Hannah's posts about giving birth on her social media, purely by accident. At that time, I was busy participating in competitions. After becoming a mother, Hannah frequently showed off pictures of her child on social media. I had to see her showing off her child almost every day to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore and blocked her. At this, Hannah gave a forced laugh. It's been so many years now, and Zai is already this big. I scoffed. It doesn't matter how many years it's been. At the very least, everyone should know the truth. Otherwise, people might think you sacrificed for me to go to school. As soon as I finished speaking, Hannah's expression became unnatural. Immediately after, she changed her tone. Daisy, look, Mom and Dad are getting old now. They can't live in this cramped house forever. How about you and I pool our money to buy a bigger house so Mom and Dad can live comfortably and will also gain face with the neighbors? I feigned interest. So, how much do you plan to contribute? Where will we buy it? Whose name will the house be under? Hannah seemed to have prepared in advance. You're more capable, so of course, you should contribute a bit more. You just need to cover 1.55 million first. We'll buy the house in Zayajai district, and the title deeds are all in the family, so it's fine. You don't use the house in our hometown anyway, so just let it be in my name. She answered 3 questions without hesitation, clearly having a premeditated scheme. Zayajai district was the most expensive area where I lived, and its residents were all wealthy. More importantly, buying a house there granted the right for one's child to attend the best elementary school, clearly showing she was planning for her son. Did she really see me as a living ATM? She listed a pile of benefits, but what about the money? How much do you plan to contribute, sister? Hearing about money, Hannah immediately whined. You know Zai is growing up and costs so much money. I don't have any spare cash left to buy a house. Mom and Dad will surely understand me. Of course, especially my father, who always understood her in everything, doing things according to her ability. You don't have money, and I don't either. I can't even afford a house in Beijing. Yet you open your mouth and demand 1.55 million from me. You're truly audacious. Seeing that buying a house wouldn't work, Hannah immediately changed the topic. Then buying a car would be fine too, for Mom and Dad's convenience. What do you think? She said, showing me several carefully selected photos of luxurious cars. In reality, they weren't practical, but they looked incredibly glamorous. Indeed, Hannah's taste was still as extravagant as in her past life, all show and no substance. She wouldn't spend a dime on actual purchase. I replied coldly, "Is the car for Mom and Dad to use or for you? You know the answer. The house is near a school and Mom and Dad don't even use a car. I've laid it all out. If you have any shame left, don't ask me for money anymore." Having said that, I stood up and left the table, not bothering to continue arguing with Hannah. I turned to my room to check on my mother, but as soon as I got home, Hannah blocked my way. Before I could even see my mother, I pushed the door open. Only my mother was in the room. She looked much older, but her body was still healthy. It was then that I realized everything was just an excuse for Hannah to trick me into coming home. Seeing my mother being oppressed by her all this time, I was choked with emotion, unable to utter a single word. "Daisy, you're back. I've already cleaned your room for you. Go rest quickly. You must be tired after a long day." I followed my mother into my small room. After not returning for several years, the already small room was now almost filled with Hannah's belongings. Luckily, my mother had cleaned it beforehand. Though cramped, it was still temporarily livable. It seemed there was no longer any place for me in this house. I reluctantly stayed for one night, and as soon as dawn broke the next morning, I rushed back to Beijing. Just a few days after the house buying incident, my father started calling again. I initially didn't intend to answer, fearing he'd pick a fight with me again, but this time my father's voice was very urgent. "Daisy, hurry home for a visit, something big has happened. Your sister is going to commit suicide." Whether my sister lived or died, I didn't truly care. But my mother was different. If Hannah died, my mother would surely be heartbroken, so I rushed home again. Upon arrival, the scene before me stunned me into silence. Hannah was standing on the roof, right at the edge, just one more step back and she would fall. Behind her were several burly men, holding knives and sticks, their faces fierce. "Let me tell you, it's useless even if you die. Even after death, I won't let you off, debts must be paid. How dare you deny such an obvious truth? Go ahead and calculate it yourself. The money borrowed 5 years ago with compound interest has now reached several million." From what they said, I understood that Hannah had borrowed from loan sharks and now couldn't repay. Recalculating the time, indeed, 5 years ago was also the year she bought all those designer goods for our parents. It wasn't surprising. Julian was a scoundrel in my past life, and he couldn't be any better in this one. How could he have money for Hannah to spend? He was even too stingy to fork out a single penny. Hannah's eyes immediately shifted towards me. She pointed and yelled, "Look, gentlemen, this is my younger sister. She's very rich, works in Beijing, lives in a big house. Just ask her, she'll definitely pay for me. I'm her biological sister, she can't abandon me." Hannah in this life truly clung to me like a vengeful ghost. Just because I was her younger sister, did I have to bear her consequences? I was cold. "I'm your sister, but I don't have money." "If I had money, would you have needed to borrow from loan sharks? Look at this house. Does it look like a family that can afford to pay?" I glanced at my mother. Her eyes were full of pleading, as if begging me to help Hannah first. But I knew that once I opened my mouth, that debt would be like in my past life, crushing me until I died. I was a selfish woman who only knew how to take care of myself. Seeing me refuse to pay the debt, those men immediately lunged forward, their demeanor threatening. My father, unable to stand his daughter being wronged, turned to pressure me. "Daisy, how can you be so heartless? Isn't your sister in this situation all because of you? If you had been the one to drop out that day, your sister wouldn't have fallen so low, wouldn't be like this. If your sister had gone to school, she would surely be more successful than you. Our family wouldn't be in such a state. If you have any conscience left, quickly help your sister pay off her debt, or don't ever set foot in this house again for the rest of your life." I couldn't hold back anymore, my mouth, as if poisoned, retorted. "Hannah followed that man long ago. Even if you didn't want it, she loved him to death. You couldn't control her. As for paying the debt, don't even dream about it in this life. This house is nothing but a burden to me, not returning is for the best. What other reason do you have to tie me down? I only came back here out of pity for you too." My father was speechless, unable to retort. The loan sharks, losing patience, rushed forward with their sticks. Hannah had never witnessed such a scene. In extreme panic, she finally couldn't bear the pressure and jumped from the roof. My father, seeing his beloved daughter jump, rushed after her in horror and also fell. The drama ended. When I arrived at the hospital, I only saw Hannah lying motionless in the ICU, her body severely injured, unable even to speak. My father, however, had already been taken to the morgue. I looked at her as if I was seeing my past self. Outside the ICU room, Julian's voice rang out. "Where would I get the money to treat her? Do you know how much one day in the ICU costs? If she dies, she dies. At most, I'll marry someone else." After all, tricking Hannah didn't cost much anyway. The tea had grown cold, and Hannah had received her retribution. Only my mother was left in the family. I sat beside her and asked if she wanted to leave everything behind and come live with me in Beijing. In her twilight years, having lost her husband and daughter, my mother nodded blankly. I brought my mother to Beijing, found a nursing home for her, and shed all the suffering caused by Hannah and that unreasonable father. Finally, my new life truly began.